Chris, what is our fifth topic today?
Our fifth topic comes from Rory. Hey, John and crew, did you see that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is currently sitting at 84% on Rotten Tomatoes? Personally, I was hoping for slightly higher, but it's still a very solid score. What do you guys think of this score and reviews that have come out for the film? Thanks from the UK.
2 days. 2 days until we see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, we've already seen the first 20 minutes, but now we're going to get to see the rest of it. And last night, here on the channel, I did Reaction Watch. And yes, I did have the breaking news music, Ray. You'll be happy to know. We did Reaction Watch last night, and we watched the reactions pour in, and I will tell you right now, they weren't as positive as I thought they'd be, especially since we saw the first 20 minutes. And the first 20 minutes are ludicrously good. Like really, really entertaining. Like we all walked out of the theater pretty buzzed.
Yeah.
After watching the first 20 minutes, it was great. Now, of course, that was only 1/6 of the movie. There's 5/6 of it we still haven't seen to a certain degree. And so the reactions started to come in, and most of them positive, like quite positive. But a number of them were like, you know what? This one wasn't for me. Or I was a little bit disappointed by it, but I still liked it. And, some of those as well. But overall, the majority did like it, but it wasn't, the kind of reaction that I was anticipating after watching the first 20 minutes of the movie. I was expecting something a little bigger, a little higher, and stuff like that. Well, the 84% is now lower. As of right now on Rotten Tomatoes, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is now holding an 80% with 100 reviews currently being counted. I know on this screen it says 91, but on mine right now it says with 100 reviews currently counted and 80%. Now, this is still, make no mistake about it, a overwhelmingly positive score. This is an overwhelmingly positive score. But, whereas almost any movie can come out and have an 80%, and the world would go, wow, that's a huge win. If a Marvel movie comes out and gets 80%, people go, what went wrong? Oh, these are the dying days of Marvel. I mean, okay, whatever. But still, even I would say that this is lower than what I was expecting, particularly after watching the first 20 minutes. I was expecting something a little bit higher. Now, going through Reaction Watch last night, a lot of the reactors and the reactions coming out were like, this is, especially once you get into the second half of the film, horror. This is a horror film. And this is a film you can't bring your kids to. That's what I started. Now, I don't know that. I haven't seen the movie in its entirety yet. But I started hearing a lot of people saying that you cannot bring your children to this movie. A lot of body horror, a lot of kind of gruesome stuff, a lot of kills, all this kind of stuff. And I remember, Rob, you and I were talking about this before the show started. I remember thinking, I wonder if that had something to do with some of the more lukewarm responses. Like, not to make excuses for anybody else liking or not liking a movie, but if you go into a movie expecting one thing and you get something totally different, it's understandable that it might throw you for a bit of a loop. It might discombobulate your expectations a little bit, and it might have an impact on your experience with it. It would be perfectly understandable if you're expecting one thing and get another. Little analogy here. I remember as a teenager, God, I used to love Kool-Aid. Do they still sell Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Can you still buy Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Well done.
well timed. So,
Fire today, R&B.
That was Rob's love-making voice right there. So anyway,
What?
Should I text Elizabeth?
Thankfully, she's in Germany and she'll miss that. Wow.
Can you confirm?
Anyway, so this one time, I was like 14 or 15, and I said, I'm going to make myself a pitcher of Kool-Aid. And I grab I pour in the Kool-Aid in the water, and I grab the sugar bowl, and the sugar and blah, 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 and then I take a big gulp, and I almost died. Like my throat seized up. I started hacking and coughing and whatever, because instead of grabbing the sugar thing, I grabbed the salt container. And I had poured a cup of salt into it instead of sugar. Was not expecting it. Now, for all I know, maybe that would have been the most delicious cup of Kool-Aid ever, but it was not what I was expecting. And so it kind of threw my experience off. And so all I'm saying is that I started wondering if maybe that big heightened sense of horror that is truly in this movie that we have not seen yet, I just couldn't help but wonder if maybe that threw off some people's expectations. And if it did, that would be completely understandable. But still, 80%, 100 reviews in, This is a solid, great score for any movie. Obviously, still a little bit lower than I was expecting. Rob, you're seeing the reviews come in. You started reading some of them. You saw the reactions coming in. What are your thoughts right now on what we're seeing coming in from Doctor Strange? Today's episode of Movie Club is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. Guys, more and more we enjoy shopping online, whether it's on our phones or our computers. And how many times have you gotten to the checkout and seen that promo code box and thought, man, if I only had a promo code, I could save some money? Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. So here's the situation. You're shopping online on one of your favorite sites, and when you go to checkout, the Honey button appears, and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Then just wait a few seconds as Honey works its magic and searches for coupons it can find for that site that you're on, and if Honey finds working coupon, just watch the price drop. Recently, Ann and I were hanging out at home one evening and we decided to order in, and the Honey button appeared. I was able to apply a coupon and I actually saved like $6 or $7. It was that easy to use. And Honey doesn't just work on your desktop computer, it also works on your iPhone. Just activate it on Safari on your phone and save on the go. So if you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/movie club. That's joinhoney.com/movie club.
Well, we were talking earlier this morning, and I was explaining that one of the great appeals, I think, of the MCU, beginning with Iron Man 1, is it was grounded. Like Iron Man 1 Tony Stark was a very believable guy, like in our world today. And the Iron Man suit and the story in Iron Man 1, a man finding his soul, finding what he should be doing with his life, we all understand that. It's very grounded. This movie is not grounded. This movie is dealing with the multiverse. When we watched the first 20 minutes, John, I was bouncing in my seat.
You were. I can attest to that. You absolutely were.
I loved it so much. I mean, I'm like, this is so bonkers. There's not one monster, but two big monster battles in the first 20 minutes. And I'm just like, what is not to love? That said, I know that's not for everybody. There's a lot of people going, what is all this goofiness? Because there's not a lot of, this is leaning heavily into the horror, the fantasy, the multiverse, multiple iterations. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, I don't even get what's going on
There's
here.
a giant squid one-eyed monster throwing cars.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that this probably isn't for them, which I can understand. And I think a lot of, even in the reviews and the trades, people are talking about maybe it's too much. I'm like, too much? If you grew up a comic book fan and read all the stuff and you understand all these things and variants and this and that and the other thing, I think if you give yourself over to it, but there's a lot of people that they get one ask in a movie. Like if I took my mother to this movie, she would have tuned out 5 minutes in. She's like, I don't understand anything that's happening in this movie. And it's so steeped in the Marvel lore. Now, that's not to say that could be a good thing or a bad thing. All I know is that I've seen 20 minutes of it. And bruh, that shit put a smile on my face. I loved every minute of it. And I can't wait to see the rest of it. But I can understand why it's not everyone's cup of tea.
So I wanted to share this. There's a couple of reviews here. Let me just see if I can bring the one up. So on the one hand, you've got IndieWire, right? So this is compare and contrast, because I think this is going to be a movie that will work for some and not work for others. IndieWire's headline on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is this: Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness review. Sam Raimi just saved the MCU from itself. So I have not read the full review that they had there to see what the context of that is. But then we go over to The Verge, which is a site that I like a lot, is The Verge. And the Verge's headline is very, very different. The Verge's headline reads as follows: Doctor Strange 2 gets lost in a tangle of fan service and half-baked ideas. So you got two sites that I really like having two very different perceptions of this. But still, it needs to be emphasized here that overall, these are overwhelmingly leaning positive. They're overwhelmingly leaning positive. Maybe not as high as I was thinking, but we'll see. Anyway, Chris, you're seeing these reactions, reviews. Is this what you kind of expected? Are you hearing anything that's surprising you? What's your take on this?
I mean, honestly, we've talked about this before on the show. It's not up to the critics, right? We get things wrong or different from other people all the time. We had this with Top Gun. I had a very different experience than you guys because film is subjective.
Yeah.
Ray and I's probably favorite movie of the year, Sonic 2.
Yeah.
Critics panned it almost. Some of them were really upset about it. And we loved that movie, and so did fans. So I think having a B+ is pretty dang good, first of all. That's fine by me. What I've been reading is those people who have had an issue with this, they feel like it kind of lacks a narrative center, and it gets caught up in the madness portion of this. From what I saw, that 20 minutes that we had at CinemaCon, though, I mean, that madness was great. I loved every minute of it. We were off to the races. And so if that movie keeps giving me more of that, I'm in. I'm wondering if this is not for the faint of heart Marvel viewer, right? Somebody who's a casual Marvel viewer, maybe they won't appreciate all the intricacies that could be happening in this film. Maybe they don't appreciate Sam Raimi's film stylings. But I really, really think this is still going to be a slam dunk for Marvel.
Well, I mean, and just for the record, Sonic 2 has almost 70%. Rotten
When we
Tomatoes.
first started talking about it, though, it was failing.
Yeah, it was a little bit
Was that
mixed.
like a 67?
It was a little bit mixed and stuff like that. And that's the whole thing. I think, when we saw Eternals, I had the same feeling about this about Eternals because Eternals was such, and I'll tell you right now, I am a Eternals appreciator. I mean, hello, Erisham, judge the world. And let me bobble that head. There we go. For those listening to the podcast, they different context. Hey, let's bobble the head. Anyway, so I really liked Eternals. I liked it a lot, as a matter of fact.
Refrain myself.
Like, I didn't think Eternals was in a top 10.
Restrain.
Was
not
top
refrain.
10 Marvel for me, but I really appreciate the film. I know you liked it quite a bit too.
I did. I mean, and you know what? It just touched on issues that I thought were interesting. I thought it was thought-provoking.
But they said it was going to be very different from any other Marvel movie, and it was. And I remember you and I having conversations that, I just can't help but wonder if maybe the fact that it was so different from everything else that Marvel had done, it was such a different tone. And it was clearly more of a Chloe Zhao movie than it was a Marvel movie. If that maybe understandably discombobulated some people when they watched it, because that's not what they were kind of looking for when they go into a Marvel movie. Again, so I don't know if that's what's happening here with Doctor Strange or not. We will find out for sure, more or less. But, Ray, hearing everything, I know you've been excited for Doctor Strange too. Where's your excitement level for it right now? Are you still looking forward to this? Especially since it's only 2 hours
Looks
long?
like the 266 million. I overshot that.
Right.
I'm going to have to bet another on Thor now to get a hot toy. But
I think it's still going to happen for you.
yeah, but you know what? Like I actually wish the score was lower. I mean, my perfect spot is like 60 to 67%. That's where
it's a
my
perfect
Where your
trailer.
favorite movies live?
yeah, that's where my favorite movies live for some reason. So hopefully it gets a little lower and it'll probably be perfect.
But that brings up a good question. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Ray has a lot riding on this movie because it's not really a bet because apparently it's only a bet if I get something if I win, and apparently I'm not getting anything even if
No,
if I win.
but that's why you took the bet, because it's so ludicrous that you're like, there's no way.
But
I'll
it's
do
not
it.
as ludicrous as I first thought. So for those of you who don't know, when we were taking our initial guesses on what is the opening weekend box office going to be of Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, Ray decided to go what he thought at the time was way out there, and he called 266. To which I said, that ain't going to happen. I mean, it's going to be big and it's going to be successful, but it ain't going to happen. And so somehow he manipulated me into agreeing to some kind of wager where now, if it does make 266 million, I got to buy him a hot toy.
But wait, let's put this into context. Like, No Way Home made like 250 something million.
Something around
Yeah.
there. Chris, can you look that up?
So
sure.
and that movie is, I think it's enjoyable, and I would have watched a second time or a third time. We'll see what we think about this movie, but if I don't get that feeling, then there's no way it hits way past No Way Home. No way it makes.
Well, I mean, so if it does though, you are in. And remember, a 1/6 scale, none of this 1/4 scale.
Yes.
All right, so
But-
I don't know, Rob. Does he have a chance? Is he getting a hot toy here or not?
You know, when
It was
when,
260 million, just real quick.
It was 260.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got to be a little bit more than Spider-Man did.
when there's a hot toy involved, I'm always pulling for him to win or anyone to win.
But
You know,
will
look,
he?
I mean, we've only got 2 hot toys, but they look pretty badass on our desks here, dude. I mean, that Infinity War cap That represents.
You know,
This
if
is
we
my
don't,
favorite. Yeah.
if
And
we
this is
don't,
my Infinity War Doctor Strange also representing. Wouldn't it be nice if Ray Ora had something right
We
next
need
to
100
him?
of these.
See,
now.
the chat was really nice and said you should just give us yours, Rob.
Rob has enough to give out a whole bunch. I'm sure Elizabeth
You
would
can
be
also
happy if you
sneak in some
did.
physical media with it.
How about no?
You can indoctrinate the youth.
look,
How
look,
about
look,
no?
look. If I don't win this bet, we're gonna just move it to Thor, and then I'm gonna want a Mighty Jane, whatever, Mighty Thor hot toy. So we'll think of a new bet,
Tell you what, after that trailer, I'd take a Mighty Thor Jane
Heck
hot toy.
yeah.
especially if it was
Have to
like
watch that trailer.
die-cast armor. That would be so cool. Rob already bought it. You can look in his
Probably already
face. He's
did.
like, yeah, it is cool. You
No,
should
they
check it
don't
out."
have any Love and Thunder hot toys up for pre-order yet.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What are you thinking about this? The reviews came out for Doctor Strange, and listen, make no mistake about it. They're very positive. Maybe not as positive as we were kind of looking for. Does this do anything to your excitement? Increase it, decrease it, whatever? Whatever your guys' thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.